Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So today we will begin this most beautiful chapter, chapter 4, entitled The Confidential Reasons for the Lord's Appearance. And how do we get this insight? So Prabhupada explains in the introduction to this chapter, he says that Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami was the principal figure among Lord Chaitanya's confidential devotees. The records of his diary have revealed these confidential purposes of the Lord. This is right towards the end of the introduction, the second last paragraph. So these revelations have been confirmed by the statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in his various prayers and poems. So they've been revealed and recorded by whom? By? No, they have been recorded by Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was the Lord's personal associate. And this is how we know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's latter pastimes, and also his inner mood, his innermost desires, his innermost activities. This is where we learn about that. From whom? From the notes of Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he recorded these confidential reasons. And Prabhupada says these have been confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this chapter begins with a very beautiful verse, again emphasizing the power of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So let us repeat this verse. Shri Chaitanya Prasadena
Shri Chaitanya Prasadena
Tadrupasya Vinirnayam
Tadrupasya
Balopi Kurute Shastram
Balopi Kurute Shastram
Drishtra Vraja Vilasinaha.
Drishtra Vraja Vilasinaha.
So by the mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Vraj, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. So in this first verse, he indicates what he's going to reveal, the real nature of Lord Krishna. And then with that, he uses one phrase, Vraja Vilasina, who enjoys the pastimes of Vraj. So that's another indication that what's the real nature of God? That He is the enjoyer of these transcendental pastimes of Vraja. And we'll see in this chapter how deeply he goes into this subject matter. And one thing I want to honestly share with you, that much of what I will share, in fact almost everything that I will share in this chapter, it's practically theoretical. So there's very limited realization involved, but I will try to share whatever Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada have revealed in the verses and the purports, superficially. Internal work you will have to do. So, and I will have to do also. So Prabhupada says, one can ascertain the meaning of this Sanskrit shlok only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Caitanya. Even to understand this verse, we need the mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So he says the Lord, who is a supreme absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to the mundane instruments of vision. So what does this mean, mundane instruments of vision? Speculation, material knowledge, material experiments, theories, philosophies, logic. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, that means accepting that that is true. But he says even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, this is the power of the mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Kaviraj Goswami says that now that he has described the meaning of the fourth verse or fourth Mangala Charan, now he's going to explain the meaning of the fifth verse. But before he does that, he says, just to explain the original verse, I'm going to first suggest its meaning. That means what he's going to do is, he's going to set the scene before he explains the meaning of the fifth verse. So he's going to kind of give us a background and set the scene before he gets into the explanation of the fifth verse. So he says that I've already given you the meaning of the fourth verse, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descends for two primary purposes, that is Prema Nama Pracharite E Avatara. So what does he come to do? Right? Propagate the chanting of the holy names and also distribute love of God. Now he says that, let us recite verse number 6. Okay, so he'll repeat after me. Satya ei hetu kintu eho bahiranga. Ara eka hetu suno ache antaranga. So although what he has explained is true, but that is the external reason for the Lord's appearance. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. So now he's going to reveal the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. Now before he does that, he's going to explain why Krishna descends. What's the real purpose? First, why Krishna descends himself. Yada yada hi dharmasya. So, that is correct, but it is also not correct. Okay, to perform the pastimes, yes, you're there. So, he comes, we'll read, okay. Now, he says that the scriptures proclaim that the Lord descends to take away the burden of the earth, just like as you said, right? To remove adharma and to establish dharma, and how does he do that? He has to remove the non-devotees. Sometimes he has to extinguish them, right? Or he has to literally liberate them from this body. That's a Krishna's killing the demons is like liberating them. It's not like killing of mundane people. But when he destroys someone, he actually liberates them. So, although that is true, but that is again secondary. That means there is another hidden reason why Krishna comes. Confidential reason. Again, reason which is Krishna comes for himself. Like, what's his real desire for coming? So now he says that the taking away of the burden, to remove the asuras, to establish dharma, he says that is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's not the real work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says the maintainer, Lord Vishnu, is the one who does this work. So even when Krishna comes, what happens? That it's explained that, let us read text number 10. Purna Bhagavan avatar jai kale, ar sab avatar tante aashe mile. So when the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all incarnations of the Lord meet together within him. So that means when Krishna descends, all the other incarnations described, some examples, Narayan, Chaturvyuha, Matsya, Adi Avatar, the Yuga avatars, the Manmantra avatars, whoever's there, all the avatars, they all descend within the body of Lord Krishna. Really amazing information. That Krishna, that little attractive cowherd boy, within him all the incarnations of Godhead are within his form. And so during that time, says Lord Vishnu is also present in the body of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna kills the demons through him. Vishnu dware kore Krishna asura samhare. Text 13, he says. So, he says, thus the killing of the demons is but secondary work. And it is only coincidental that the Lord descends for his own reasons, and at the same time, the time to remove the burden of the earth also happens together at the same time. So it is coincidental.
In the text, translation of text 12, it says in the last line, in this way the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Krishna himself appears. So we are seeing complete because now all the incarnations are there with him. That is why we call him complete.
Yeah, so Krishna is complete, he's Purna. And how is he Purna? Because all the incarnations are there within him. Why is Krishna complete? And from him all the other, he's expanding. So if He's expanding into different forms, all the forms are within Him. That means all the forms are within the form of Krishna.
Why is it mentioned that when Krishna descends, all the forms merge into Him?
Not they are all already within Him.
So if we go back in the text number 9, purport,
Yes.
the last one says, therefore when Sri Krishna appeared, Vishnu the Lord of maintenance merged with Him.
Yes, so they also have their individual identity. They are doing their own functions, but they also come within the form of the Lord when He descends.
So when all these forms merge in Krishna, then only Krishna becomes complete.
Well, technically that's not the proper way to understand that. Oh, the Lord becomes complete only when the other form. Whose forms are those? So His forms. They're already within Him.
Last class
So-
we said na 1 plus 1 is 1, 1
Yeah.
plus 1 is 2.
So he's Purna. Yeah, even
So Krishna, when He expands, He's still one. Right? Okay? So so all the forms are always within Lord Krishna. And they also have their individual identity. So although Krishna expands into many forms, He's still one.
Probably the word merged here.
Yeah, so sometimes, the exact, don't have to worry about the fine thing, details about the English translation. Yeah. So we'll see in different Leelas that we will discuss that. So now, coming to the real reason why Krishna came. Okay. Now this is in verses 15 and 16. So we'll recite these verses. Prema rasa nirasya korite asvadana. Raga marga bhakti loke korite pracharan.
रागमार्ग भक्ति लोके करिते प्रचार
Rasika Shekhara Krishna Parama Karuna.
रसिक शेखर कृष्ण परम करुणा
Ei dui hetu hoite ichara udgama.
এই দুই হেতু হইতে ইচ্ছার উদ্গম
So the Lord appears primarily for two reasons. Prema rasa nirasya korite asvadan. So the Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of the love of God. And He wanted to propagate Raga Marga Bhakti Loke Korite Pracharan. He wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. And therefore, He is supremely jubilant. He's Rasika Shekhara Krishna and He's Parama Karuna. This is what makes the Lord so amazing and so merciful. That He has come to taste these beautiful mellows of devotional exchanges and love. And He's come to propagate bhakti on a level of spontaneity, right? Spontaneous devotional service. Now He will explain more what that is. Srila Prabhupada in his purport. So Prabhupada writes that such apparent killing by Lord Sri Krishna took place as a matter of course and was an incidental activity for Him. So killing of the demons is not the main activity for Krishna. In fact, He's not even technically involved in that. He gets that done through His Vishnu form. Yeah, like in this world, it's always. unless like there's an exchange with, say, Bhishma Dev, where there's a very personal exchange, rasa. Now that's again, that's an interaction with his devotee. So he is actually shooting arrows, and he's shooting arrows. It's actually happening. There's an exchange.
So Prabhuji, if like he's killing Bakasur, so the Vishnu form inside him is killing.
Yeah, that's what is being said here. So we will read here. So it says that here Prabhupada gives the example. No, it's in the next one. So he says that, but the real purpose of Lord's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes at Vraj Bhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. And what are these reciprocal exchanges called? They're called Raga Bhakti. He says, devotional service to the Lord in transcendental rapture. Complete absorption in the love of the Supreme Lord. And why does he do it? Now Prabhupada explains that he wants to make known to all conditioned souls that he is more attracted by Raga Bhakti than Vidhi Bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. And it's said in the Upanishads, Krishna is Raso Vaisa. The Supreme Absolute Truth is the reservoir of all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is causelessly merciful, and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of Raga Bhakti. Now see, this is the real reason. What does he want to give us? He wants to give us the privilege of loving and having these beautiful exchanges with the Lord, by which even the Lord comes under the control of the devotee. I mean, this is the nature of God. And Prabhupada says he appeared by his own divine will, by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force. Now this is the next verse is another very important verse. This is a repeat of a verse in chapter. The same verse is repeated in chapter 3. So we will recite this verse. Aishwarya jnanete sabha jagatam shrita.
Aishwarya jnanete sabha jagatam shrita.
Aishwarya shithila preme nahi mor prita.
Aishwarya shithila preme nahi mor prita.
So this is Krishna thinking. Remember last time you were saying Krishna is thinking. So this verse is repeated, that all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty. Everyone is worshipping me with a lot of awe and reverence. Most of the devotees who approach the Lord, they approach with material desires. So most of the time we are petitioning the Lord for certain material desires, and we are worshipping according to different rules and regulations. We are scared that if I do this, if I do that, this will happen. So much fear is there. So in awe and veneration, God, please, take care. So this is the general mood of people approaching God. But Krishna says this kind of worship, it is love weakened by the sense of majesty. So what is primary in this kind of mood? The greatness of God. We are at least acknowledging the greatness. God is great, He will help me, or He can help me. And through that we try and fulfill our desires in this world. That's most people in this world, which includes most of us. And here Krishna, all the acharyas, Lord Caitanya, they're teaching us that we have to learn to go beyond this. Right? Because this is the desire of the Lord, and this is what will ultimately satisfy us. Krishna, it's easy for Krishna to give us material things, but what happens at the end? They all turn into misery. It's guaranteed. Because everything in relation to the body, what will happen? It will all be taken away. No matter how powerful we are, how influential we are, it will all be taken away. And the more we are attached, the more painful that separation becomes. Now, these next few verses, they are so super sweet verses. Again, Krishna is revealing, he is revealing, now these are all in, quotes. That means, again, this is Krishna expressing himself, his innermost desires. He's really sharing his nature with us through these verses. So he says, Amare Ishvara mane apana ke hina,
Amare Ishwara mane apana ke hina,
Tara preme bosha ami na hoy adhina.
Tara prema vasami na hoye adhina.
So if one regards me as a Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love. Tara prema bosha ami na hoy, right? Adhina. So, nor can it control me. So, what can control him? This is. So he says that, before he gets to that, he says that whatever bhav anyone worships, a devotee worships me in, I reciprocate with him accordingly. This is my natural behavior. So which is this verse in the Gita Krishna says? Ye yathaman papatyante. So Krishna, in the purport, Prabhupada says that the Lord by his inherent nature reveals himself before his devotees according to their inherent devotional service. The Vrindavan pastimes demonstrated that although generally people worship God with reverence, the Lord is more pleased when a devotee thinks of him as his pet son, personal friend, or most dear fiancé, and renders service unto him with natural affection. And then Prabhupada says, the Lord becomes a subordinate object of love in such transcendental relationships. And the next few lines, right, listen very carefully, and then you tell me where you have heard this before. Okay. Such pure love of Godhead is unadulterated by any tinge of superfluous non-devotional desires and is not mixed with any sort of fruit of action or empiric philosophical speculation. It is pure and natural love of Godhead spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection. Where have you heard this before?
This is always said in context of gopis.
Okay, but which verse? You all know this verse.
NOD verse 1, Prabhuji.
Very nice. What is it called? How does it start? Huh? Anya abhilashita shunyam. Is that verse? Which
Yes,
one?
Prabhuji.
Yes. So if you see, in many purports, Prabhupada, when he's writing a purport, he's giving his realization of that verse. So this, if you see, this is not the exact translation, but very similar. He's explaining that verse. In 3 or 4 lines, he's explaining the verse with different words, but the essence is the same. So, anya abhilashita shunyam, jnana karma anadi anavritam. So, if you see, Prabhupada is saying same thing here. Right? It's unadulterated. That means anya abhilashita shunyam. So, and it is free from fruit of action or empiric philosophical speculation. Jnana karma. Then it is done in a favorable atmosphere. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. And that is Uttama Bhakti. Such an amazing definition, right? Making it very clear that there is not the slightest tinge of Gyan and Karma, or fruitive desire. And it is bhakti that is favorably performed and according to the desires of the Lord. Krishna Anushilanam. These are such beautiful verses that should be our meditation, because this is our goal. This verse is one of the verses that clearly describes what is the purpose of bhakti, or what is the purpose of dharma. What are we here for? In one lecture, Mahanadi, His Holiness Mahanadi Maharaj says that all of Vedic literature, if you take the entire Vedic literature, it's like footnotes on this verse. Because this is the prayojan, this is the goal.
So Prabhuji, if you can elaborate, so if there's ordinary devotional service, like all of us are engaged in, could be karmakand, whatever level.
Yes.
And then there is this goal, and then also you have this the practice. So the practice should lead you towards devotional service, which is to be gyan, karma, gyan, whatever. The end of it should take us to bhakti, right? Or we can go directly to bhakti only, but we are living in this world, we have to do karma, we have to do...
Yeah, so knowledge, not all types of knowledge will take us. We need the knowledge of bhakti to take us on this path. And the knowledge of bhakti also includes, if you read the Bhagavatam, right, what is it? It is the knowledge of bhakti. It is, what is the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam? To take complete shelter of the Supreme Lord. Save pumsa paro dharma yato bhakti radhokshaja ahituki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhiti. So this is the goal of the Bhagavatam, to bring us to that point of surrender. Now, the Bhagavatam also tells us how we can live and also fulfill, as we are going through the path of bhakti, how we can be a grihastha. There's a beautiful chapter called Ideal Grihastha Life in the Bhagavatam, in the 7th canto. There's so much discussion of kings and how they economically rule. And Prabhupada's purports are full of practical ways that we can live in this world and yet make progress towards this ultimate stage of consciousness where there's no more material motives, no more material hankerings or desires. So that knowledge is there. Now what do we do with our material knowledge, you could say? So we have to try to link it up, right? Or use it in the service of God to the extent it can be used. Some things can't be used. Some things are so in the opposite direction you can't. Like you take intoxication, it's difficult to use it in Krishna's service. I was talking to a devotee, he works for a liquor company. He says it's so difficult. And sometimes, there are technologies, there are products, they're quite harmful. They're harmful for people. So unfortunately, we are living in a world today, and I honestly struggle with it, but I don't really have I think the world has gone too far to, like, if you see our whole economic system in the last few centuries has become so sinful. It's just based on anarthas, unnecessarily products and desires and entertainment, and if you really evaluate what do we really need for life, today we don't have that. We don't have clean water, we don't have clean food,
Clean environment.
we don't have trustworthy people. What we really need for our sustenance, you have to pay a premium price for that today. Normal person can't afford organic food, living in a nice place where there is no pollution, where you get clean drinking water. It's not there. I don't know what we are doing. I don't know when we'll come to our senses. Just think what we really need for life. Today we don't have. Right? Whatever we eat today, God knows what we are eating. Might as well not eat it, you'll be better off. But yes, it's packaged beautifully. Billions of dollars are spent to advertise these products and make us feel, yes, if we get it, we'll be really happy. Okay. Yes, we will have bigger and bigger medical bills. We'll work hard and then we'll get insurance and pay the medical bills. We'll have fractured families. Social systems will collapse. Look at family life today in the metros. Just falling apart. In the West, many of the Western countries, it's completely fallen apart.
One more thing, I know someone who works in a drug research firm, and they've come out with injections for puberty delayed, so or even of course there are pills for abortion and all readily. So he feels very conflicted. There's a lot of ethical dilemma because puberty delaying means that they're nudging them towards questioning their gender identity and then promoting that it's all right to feel like whatever you want to change your.
It's crazy what
what work people are doing is just.
Yeah, most of the work. You see most of the technology that we are producing. So many people are coding, making products that totally. You have no chance to get a Maya's grip. They make it so difficult.
So if you don't have that kind of work, we should be really.
I don't know because I feel hard to difficult to say anything because we're still young as a society and we have not really started working on the alternatives properly. Some people have, but it's too small to engage so many people. But ultimately, if you see, most of the businesses, they're just totally based on anartha, producing things that you don't need. Like, making this house has been like a torture, because you see, this product, that product, and what, door ko aise banana hai, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, ye painting. I'm thinking like, what are we doing here? इसको सजाना, ये लाना, इसको मैच करना, ये ऐसा होना चाहिए, वो ऐसा होना चाहिए. पूरा 3 साल चला गया उसमें. I mean, made life so complex.
And the worst part is that we think that it is required. No, for us it's required to your house.
No, I'm trying to see it that way, but I tell you honestly, I feel really, just, how much ugra karma is involved to make like a building. You see the labor, when I see the labor working, I think like God, Krishna is going to really give it to me for this karma. When they spray the paint, I mean, it's inhuman. We have to lift the bricks in the, hot summer. I mean, how do they work? I remember once in Bangladesh, we had, built a huge factory. And it was done under my supervision. Not direct supervision, but, all the budgets, all the planning, this, that. And sometimes I go to the site and I just have tears. I'm like, what is going on? People chop, their fingers get cut, they do all this. If you're building a big building, 9-story building, these laborers, when they're doing all that, what is that work called? Welding work. My God. That really shakes me up when I see people. So before people, it was a natural way, building a house was not such a big deal. But we think we progressed, but anyway, that's, now I don't want to.
Can I ask?
Yes.
There's this verse which says we subordinate Radhana. If one regards me as Supreme Lord and himself as subordinate. So we as Jiva can become Das only, right? Those.
Yeah, but Das also, the pure Das is in a special category. The pure Das, although subordinate, Krishna gives him a position even greater than himself. Why? He allows him to control him. Now although we are Das, we are given an opportunity by the mercy of the Supreme Lord to actually control God. So he gives us the remote control, right? His remote he hands us to. Who does he hand over? To the pure devotee. Okay. No, it'll sink in. We'll do this. So Krishna says, now this is verses, text 21 and 22. I've got to keep a track of time. Yeah, just turn it that way. Yes. Now we'll recite these verses, beautiful verses. Mora putra mora sakha mora pranapati. Mora putra mora sakha mora pranapati. Ei bhave jai more kar shuddha bhakti. Ei bhave jai more kar shuddha bhakti. Apnake boro mane amare samahina. Apnake boro mane amare samahina. Sei bhave hoy ami tahar adhina. Sei bhave hoy ami tahar adhina. So if one cherishes pure devotion to me, thinking of me as his son, as his friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. This is the There's a beautiful transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that He wants to become controlled, and He becomes one. He gives Him. He becomes subservient to the love of His pure devotee. And Prabhupada writes that he says, this is first, second, fourth. He says, those who are spontaneously devoted to the Lord and have no aims for material gain are called attracted devotees. They are spontaneously attracted to the service of the Lord, and they follow in the footsteps of self-realized souls. Their pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, manifested from pure love of Godhead, surpasses the regulative principles of authoritative scriptures. Now listen to this. Sometimes loving ecstasy transcends regulative principles. Such ecstasy, however, is completely on the spiritual platform and cannot be imitated. The regulative principles help ordinary devotees rise to the stage of perfect love of Godhead. Pure love for Krishna is the perfection of pure devotion, and pure devotional service is identical with spontaneous devotional service. And then Prabhupada also says that in Vaikuntha, right, what happens? That there is flawless execution of regulative principles, but spontaneous pure loving service is found in Krishna Loka alone. And here Krishna is saying that this type of bhakti, he says, this revives their eternal life. He's saying, oh my dear damsels of Raj, he's talking to the gopis, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor. Krishna is telling the gopis this, that your gopis are completely, they are attracted devotees. They're completely in love with Krishna. No tinge of material desires. And Krishna is saying, this is your good fortune. And this is spoken at a very, very emotionally surcharged period, where Krishna is meeting with the gopis after a long absence. He had gone away to Dwarka, and then he comes after many years, and then he's speaking this verse. The verse that I just shared the translation with. And in 24, 25 and 26, Krishna explains that, how his mother binds him as her son. And, she nourishes him, she protects him, she feels she is the protector. And she thinks that, I'm utterly helpless. That Krishna is dependent on the care and the protection of Mother Yashoda. This is how Mother Yashoda feels. And how do you think Krishna feels about that? Huh? Yeah, he's supremely happy. That's what Krishna wants. That's what he wants to experience. He says, my friends, climb on my shoulders. Sakha shuddha sakhe kore skande arohan. He says, Tumi kon bodo lok. Who do you think you are? You think you're some big shot? He says, Tumi ami sam. We are equals. So don't think you're some, big daddy here. And Krishna, do you think he likes this? Yes. And now listen. He says, when Priya Jodi Mane Kori Koroe Bhratsan. So when she's in a sulky mood, who's Priya? Radharani. When she gets upset with Krishna and she's in a sulky mood, and she reproaches Krishna, she calls him different names and expresses her distress and her disappointment with him, then Krishna says, that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. So here all Brahmanas are doing yajna, Om Purnamada, Purnamada. They're chanting all these mantras, pure celibate Brahmanas, doing so much tapasya and yajna. And here Radharani is, she is calling him names, almost like cursing him.
Then how would the rules and regulations be following the 10th?
Yeah, so are you at that level? Huh? So are we at that level where we can chide Krishna and call him names? So Radharani has the adhikar, because she has no other desire but to love and please Krishna.
वही क्वेश्चन मेरा था कि those spots are taken.
No, those spots are taken, yes, but Radharani's spot is taken. But that same experience you can experience as a gopi.
We can see ourselves only as servant and subordinate, right?
Yeah, so
How do we? That level is.
yeah, so when we are practicing devotional service, we are doing it under different regulative principles as guided by our Guru Maharaj and senior devotees, by acharyas, and we think, yes, we are completely unqualified. We are trying to become the servant. Right? We don't have, if we go within ourselves, we still have an enjoying mentality. But we are trying to become the servant by following these rules and regulations. So one day, when we become a pure servant, when we actually come to that point of servitude, then we will get this spontaneous attraction for the Supreme Lord. So to the extent we get purified and we identify ourselves as the servant of the Lord, then to that extent we will get more and more attraction towards the Lord, which is more natural. Right now we are doing it under fear, under regulation or whatever, right? Under duty. But when will the day come when we look forward? When we get up and we are like thinking like, why do I have to sleep? Why did Krishna give this body so I have to spend these hours in this sleeping? So when we will have that strong desire to please the Lord, which is natural, that will come when we practice sadhana bhakti. And here, see, Prabhupada is writing in this, right? In the purport, he said, regulative principles in devotional service are meant for those who have not invoked their natural love of Godhead. When natural love arises, all regulative methods are surpassed and pure love is exhibited between the Lord and his devotee. Although on such a platform of love, the devotee sometimes appears to predominate over the Lord or transgress regulative principles, such dealings are far more advanced than ordinary dealings through regulative principles with awe and veneration. Is that clear? So what will happen? There will come a point where the devotee attains this platform of pure natural affection for the Lord, right? And in that position, he's saying, Prabhupada is saying, sometimes will appear to predominate over the Lord. Like the friends of Krishna. What are they doing? Hey Krishna, give me a ride on your back. Right? So what are they doing? They're ordering Krishna to carry him. You can say, Arey, what is this? There are people who are doing so much dandavat pranam to the Lord. Which is better? Which is better? Which is a better position? Yeah. To have that authority, right? To order Krishna. But that requires adhikar. That requires that pure platform of devotional service.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
Prabhuji, like in this chapter, previous 3 chapters, or if you talk about Madhya Lila, chapter 7, everywhere it is written that if we have this natural love of Godhead, like Raganuga Bhakti is the first class of devotion. But at the same time, last chapter, Payar 15, you said that Vaidhi Bhakti is the only means through which we can rise. And we all worship Lord in His Aishwarya Bhav only. We don't have that natural...
Yeah, so this is the process that we worship the Lord in awe and veneration. Even our deity worship is actually not Radha and Krishna worship. It's Lakshmi Narayan worship, the way we worship the deity. Right? It's not on a spontaneous platform. Okay? So it is in awe and reverence and grandeur, right? But this process, by doing this, the more we will get purified, then what will happen? Natural love for Krishna will arise within our hearts. But that is work in progress, right? We have to work towards that. And to work towards that, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit and wait? We have to do sadhana bhakti. So what's the choice? Yeah. So we have to do our sadhana.
So does that mean that as we continue to do the sadhana bhakti, so one day the sadhana bhakti becomes a spontaneous devotional service?
Yeah, so what are we doing sadhana bhakti for?
To get that, to that.
Yeah, to get to that platform. No, what is the goal of sadhana bhakti? Just to, have a fixed routine? 4:30 this, 6 o'clock this, and 8 o'clock this, and then go to sleep this. What's the point of this? That we want to love Krishna the way He wants us to love Him. That's the goal of Krishna consciousness movement. It's not just, follow just rules and regulations, all, lifetime after lifetime. Is that the goal of Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they have given us that confidence that it's possible if we do it in this lifetime. I mean, that's like a, such a big blessing, opportunity that we have been presented. I'll just finish this. Now listen to this. It says, the informal language used between lover and beloved is indicative of pure affection. When devotees worship their beloved as the most venerable object, spontaneous loving sentiments are observed to be lacking. Let's just say, just for example, bringing it down to a little mundane platform so we can understand it. So even within a wife and a husband, if it is too formal, oh Prabhuji, oh Devi, then what will happen?
Artificial.
Huh?
Thoda artificial.
Thoda artificial lage, yes. So, what will happen? Spontaneous loving sentiments will be observed to be lacking. Even on Monday platform. So this is a reflection of the real love that takes place in the spiritual world. But he says, but in fact such pure love is far superior to regulated devotional service. Such pure love of Godhead is always glorious in all respects, more so than reverential devotional service rendered by a less affectionate devotee. Now, when we hear this, now we'll open it up for a little discussion. Oh, you had something you wanted to mention?
One analogy can be used that if we have your point of how to prepare for this is if we are actors, suppose you are a chartered accountant, doctor, lawyer, and we are all interested in acting and we join a acting group. So we are swept away by a role during the time we are practicing and performing. At the same time, we are not, in our day-to-day life we are not, but eventually, we get to get those characteristics of the character role we are playing, and maybe at some point we can reach that stage.
Just put this speaker that side. Abbas.
I understand that it's a mundane example, but when we try to learn to drive, so when we try to learn to drive like car or something, so initially we are very much, concerned about, okay, now this is we need to change the gear, clutch, press karna hai.
Yes.
As we continue doing it daily basis, going out on long drives, something, and then eventually that becomes a reflex section, like spontaneously.
Yes.
You are talking, you are doing other things, but that car, it's all going on. So that's how I can relate about the Vedi Bhakti and Raga Nugati.
Yes. You take any activity, like you take even a say musician. Right? When they're playing the mridanga first, tere kheta, and suddenly, like after 2-3 years, they're like, kya aa raha hai unke haathon se, kya baj raha hai. You can't imagine. They're creating things in their mind, and even without thinking, the hands are going. But what's the difference between any material thing and bhakti?
It doesn't get lost.
Huh?
All that effort
Okay, yes.
is integrated.
Material is for our satisfaction.
Okay.
Yes, you want the mic?
Enthusiasm increase होता है. वैसे mundane level पे भी हो सकता है. कोई लेकिन one difference is not everyone can become a musician. Can everyone become a musician? Can everyone become a sportsman? Can everyone become a devotee? Yes. Okay.
What was the context जिसमें आपने ये भी reference दिया?
नहीं, इन्होंने ये एग्जाम्पल दिया कि what's it, how regulative activities lead to spontaneity eventually in any activity, even in a material activity. Like now sometimes you're driving your car, you're eating. In America, people even with their electric buzzer, they shave. On the highway they're shaving, they're driving. But you won't do that when you start driving, no? You won't try to eat something when you just started driving. You don't know, first gear hai ki reverse jayega ki kahan jayega. But when you really learn, when you become expert at driving, then you're not thinking, first, second, fifth, where, you're just doing it. with that, you are talking on the phone, you are eating, you are doing this. It's happening spontaneously, as if without, basically it's happening effortlessly. Okay. Today our devotion requires effort. It's not effortless.
So say if someone is at, say, from a platform from 1 to 10, if someone is at 3 or 4, and then that person thinks that, okay, I am at 4, so now I am following the regulative principles and following the Vedi Bhakti, so now it is up to Krishna to elevate me from 4 to 5 or to 6. So is that kind of understanding correct, or that person needs to make effort also from his or her side?
What do you think will happen?
Efforts are required.
So, the wonderful thing about bhakti is that the more we progress and the more we get taste for it, would we want to put in more effort or less effort?
More effort.
It's natural.
So does that mean that if someone is not
And
able to
and
put
where
effort,
and where is that effort coming from? That desire for more effort, where is that coming from?
from the taste?
From the taste and also the blessings of the Lord and our Guru Maharaj and the devotees.
So does that mean that if someone is not able to put extra effort, does it mean that he or she is not getting that taste or is not getting the blessings?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. If they become
Mundane,
mechanical. If they become complacent, then something needs to be adjusted. Maybe maybe we need to be more attentive while chanting, reduce our offences, decrease our mundane prajalpa, whatever, I don't know, depending on the situation of the devotee. Certain things have to get adjusted. So now coming to the real purpose, okay. Why Krishna comes? So he says that we do maybe another 2 or 3 verses, okay. So 27 to 28. Ei Shuddha Bhakta Loya Karimu Avatara Koriba Vividha Vidha Adbhuta Vihara Vaikuntha Daya Nahi Je Je Leela Prachara Sheshe Leela Koribo Joto Mora Chamatkar. So this is an amazing verse. He says, taking these pure devotees with me, I shall descend and sport in various wonderful ways, unknown even in Vaikuntha. I shall broadcast such pastimes by which even I am amazed. Joto mora chamatkar, shei shei lila koribo. Right? Do such kind of lila that even I am amazed. And then he says that the influence of Yoga Maya, he says, Mo Vishaya Gopir Gane Upapati Bhave Yoga Maya Koribe Apana Prabhave. He says the influence of Yoga Maya will inspire the gopis with the sentiment that I am their paramour, I am their lover. So who's going to do this? Krishna's own internal potency, Yoga Maya. So Yoga Maya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself and become an object of love for his pure devotee in different transcendental mellows. This is a very powerful purport. It says, this Yoga Maya potency creates a spiritual sentiment in the minds of the damsels of Vraj by which they think of Krishna as their paramour. This sentiment is never to be compared to mundane, illicit sexual love. Okay? It has nothing to do with sexual psychology, although the pure love of such devotees seems to be sexual. One should know for certain that nothing can exist in this cosmic manifestation that has no real counterpart in the spiritual field. All material manifestations are emanations of the transcendence. Now listen to this. The erotic principles of amorous love reflected in mixed material values are perverted reflections of the reality of spirit. But one cannot understand the reality unless one is sufficiently educated in the spiritual science. I mean, this is like too good. You know, what Prabhupada is explaining. That what we see in this world is a perverted, when we see people having, illicit sexual relationships, what is it? It is a perverted reflection of what? Of the spiritual relationships that exist in the transcendental world. And those spiritual transcendental relationships, they're completely beyond these mundane relationships we have in this material world. And we can only understand that reality. How? How will we understand that reality? When one is sufficiently educated in the spiritual science. So we have to be trained up as spiritual practitioners. Then we can see, or we can try and understand the difference between what is love and what is lust. This is going to be the thrust of this chapter. Because we are so caught up and we are so covered with lust in this world. For us to even think of pure love, it's so difficult. And we can't understand that unless we go through this spiritual science, which is the science of tapasya. What is sadhana bhakti? This is tapo divyam. People want to understand God, like, he's, in a bar, he's smoking and drinking, and he says, he wants to have a discussion about God. Show me, what is your logic, this, that. Okay, even if they may not drink, they're just engrossed in material activities, and they want to, they think, God is like anyone's business. You should be able to understand God but anything in this world to understand, we have to go through a process. Today if I want to understand anything about science or engineering, I can't challenge, say an engineer and say, I want to understand it right now. He'd say, you're stupid. Have you gone through that training? You want to assess an engineering problem or an engineering issue with your, BBA mind. How can you do that? How can you do that? It's like, like a class 5 student saying, okay, now, although there are some exceptions, so this may not be the, he says, okay, I want to know, I want to do calculus right now. They say, okay, yeah, you'll be able to do it, but you need to go through the process. So similarly, to understand God, His activities, even the philosophy that he gives, the science he gives a process to understand it. That's the whole Vedic literature. Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. But you have to go through that process. That's why Prabhupada is saying, unless one is sufficiently educated in the spiritual science. So we'll stop here today.